Coach, you've got big shoes to fill from a public perception standpoint with Coach Hiestand. What's your reaction to that and kind of living up to the standard of Notre Dame's offensive line coach?
Yeah. Well, first of all, we want to congratulate Harry on a tremendous job over the 6 years, here at Notre Dame. The fine coach, one of the best I've been around. So being here for 3 years, I've studied Harry and I've studied, how our offensive line have been coached, taught, developed, trained, and certainly I'm excited about to continue that tradition here. I'm from Chicago, so I was happy to see that our beloved Bears got one of the best in the business and certainly opened up a tremendous opportunity for me. So I'm excited about being here and representing this great university and this football program and this position.
Coach, mentioning that you've been, around Harry for 3 years, what are the biggest things that obviously you coached offensive line for a long time, but what are the biggest things that you took away from his style or his philosophy and the way that he did things?
Well, I will tell you, if you've been around Harry, he doesn't waste a second of every day to get those guys ready and trained mentally, physically, emotionally to play at the highest level. And you saw that displayed on that football field, not just, a week, not occasionally, but each and every single week. And then to be recognized by the group that gave the unit the Joe Moore Award was certainly one of the great honors, and being a part of that was certainly something that I hold very dear. But that standard that he set was more of an attacking mentality every single day, and that's the way I want to coach. That's the way I've always coached, and certainly the guys will feel good about how I'll go in that room every day, and then how we take it to the field and how it's displayed on Saturdays, each and every Saturday in the fall.
As far as recruiting, coming in, with a very short amount of time till signing day, keeping Luke Jones and then signing Jared Patterson today, what was that scramble like for you, and what was kind of your philosophy, I guess, towards recruiting in that situation?
Well, first of all, it was about 2 weeks when Harry made the announcement, and the position was open. So there was a lot of uncertainty for the recruits, and there was a number of them out there that I knew we needed to hang on to and certainly swing our way. And so when I had a chance to be announced on that Tuesday, the next morning I was on a plane flying out down to see Luke and Nicholas and certainly Jarrett. I went into this just as I always do, just be who you are. And I wanted to make sure that they understood, who Jeff Quinn was, as a person, as a husband, as a man, certainly as a football coach, how their life's going to be impacted by my leadership and direction each and every single day, making sure that the parents felt comfortable, just as I've raised 2 sons myself, and you hear it a lot by the great coaches in this profession, that they approach it the same way, coaching those young men, just as I would coach my own 2 sons, and making sure that we do things the right way, we make the right choices, that we make a decision to set that standard each and every single day. And I made that clear to them. Our goal is to graduate our student athletes to compete for a national championship, but the magic to that is, how do you do that? And I kept saying, because it's about people, the right kind of people. And that's why I'm in your home. And I appreciate you allowing me into your home. And I congratulate the parents, and they've done a fantastic job because of their priorities, both in the classroom and on the field, and the way they train their young men to make great choices in their life. And so when you put all that together and you do that over a short period of time, it is difficult. But I think I was able to genuinely get that point across, and they felt really, really comfortable. But these are high-achieving families that have raised high-achieving young men, and they want to be a part of a high-achieving university and football program, and that's what we have to offer. So it was exciting to see that both of these young men, along with Cole Mabry and also John Dirksen, to be able to touch base with them after they've already signed their NLI. So we were able to get that point across in a short period of time, and certainly today is a great tribute to that.
Chip Long talked today about working with you behind the scenes last year as far as with the tight ends, you being in all these meetings and everything. What's the relationship like with him, and how much does it help that you guys have that kind of rapport going into this, I guess?
Yeah, well, we have the same philosophy, and that's about attacking defenses. You know, one of the things that I enjoyed is over all those years I had been building our system of offense with Coach Kelly and myself at Grand Valley, you know, Central, Cincinnati. When he brought it here, that same system that we worked on it so closely together and developed, I was able to take that to Buffalo. So last year, after Coach had made the decision to hire Chip, I was eager and excited because all I knew was that one system that we had developed and brought here to Notre Dame. And I really like how he calls the offense. I like the plays that we have in the system. We're on the same page. It's all about run the ball first. It's about attacking downhill. It's about being relentless to the echo of the whistle and making sure we're putting the points on the board. And, you know, being able to do that, you need to have those guys up front to be able to control the line of scrimmage and protect the quarterback as we take shots downfield. So I could tell in a very short period of time, you know, we were going to be able to work very closely and very well together. Now, the opportunity that presented itself to be the offensive line coach was something I was even more excited to be able to work locked arms and lockstep with Chip as we continue to move this offense forward.
Just last one for me. Having the experience as a head coach at Buffalo, how does that help you? How does that shape your perspective now in your role here?
Well, it's much different. You know, when you're a head coach, as you know, you're taking care of everything from A to Z. You're not really focused on just one position and one group of guys. You're accounting for 105 players and your entire staff, your administration, and getting out and, you know, raising money and you know, working with the alumni and the boosters, so on and so forth. So there was a much, I always tell the story when Coach Kelly, when I came back, when I had been serving in the first 2 years at Buffalo, I used to think when I was at Cincinnati and Central Michigan, I'd be like, where is this guy? You know, as we were planning the week's schedule and practice, you know, getting our guys ready. And then I called I said, I know where you were because I'm out there doing all those things that you were doing. So you got to trust that you hire a great coaching staff and making sure that those guys are continuing operating when you're not around and giving them direction. But, you know, for me, this is who I am. I mean, those opportunities were provided because I was an offensive line coach, then an offensive coordinator, developing championship offensive lines and offensive units and breaking records and having an opportunity to win national championships and conference championships, and then certainly being able to get some guys developed and trained to be able to play at the next level. And you think about guys like Jason Kelsey and Joe Staley and Khalil Mack and Stephen Means and a number of guys that have had a chance to impact. I'm excited about working with this group. So there's a little bit more focus on just the offensive line and how it fits within the system of offense, as opposed to being head coach where you know, got a much bigger duty and responsibility to handle the whole thing.
Coach, it may be too much of a generalization to say that Coach Hiestand would kind of just take the 5 best players and then figure out how to use them at different positions. Is that kind of your philosophy, or do you look at a player and like, he's a right guard and that's just where he's going to be, or do you prefer versatility where like, no, he's one of my 5 best, I'm going to figure out how to use him where I can?
Absolutely. I totally agree with that approach. Find the best 5. And I've said it many times, if your best 5 are all tackles, then 2 of them are going to have to play guard and one's going to have to play center. If your best 5 are guards, then 2 are going to have to play tackle and one's going to have to play center. So, you know, I think that's the fair way to approach it. I think the players in the room respect that, and that's why, you know, that's why it's so important that if you have 3 guards competing for 2 positions, they know how important it every day is to demonstrate and prove that they're one of the top 2 so that they can do that. But you also have to cross-train. You know, sometimes what happens in the game, unfortunately, a guy goes down, next guy's got to go in. So let's just say, for example, when I was at Cincinnati, I had a starting center named Chris Jurek, and Jason Kelsey was our starting left guard. I had a backup young man for Chris Jurek, but really Jason Kelsey was our next best center. So if Jurek went down, Jason would move over, and our next best guy, our 6th guy, was our backup left guard. So that's how I continue to work, and that's how we'll continue to do it here. So it's very consistent what Harry had in place here.
Coach, when you took the position as an offensive analyst here at 2015, was it with the mindset that having worked with Coach Kelly for 21 years that eventually it could lead to this type of promotion?
I think at the time I was asked to do something and to be an analyst, I completely embraced that role. I respected it, understood it. Certainly, you also feel like if there was an opportunity that if Harry did have a chance to go on and coach in the NFL, which nobody really knew at that point, that I would have a shot at, showing what I'm capable of doing. And that's what happened. But, the analyst role, it allowed me to see things even in a different perspective, in terms of time management and, charts in terms of being able to attempt more fourth down situations to convert as opposed to settling for punts and field goals. That allowed it for me to see that. Also, there was a lot of scenarios that I was able to share with Chip and Coach Kelly that maybe don't happen as often, but I thought, with my role, I dug in deep, and all these various situations I've got on my Exo system, probably over 100 scenarios that have happened through the NFL game, the college game, that could potentially take place. Based on score, field position, time on the clock, whether it's before the half, at the end of the game, and certain things that we've installed in our offense that have helped us prepare each week if those scenarios did take place. So I took a lot of pride in that from that standpoint.
Did you feel being an analyst helped expand maybe your library, whereas previously you were centered mostly on, okay, here's the offensive line?
Absolutely, and that's what I'm always grateful for, those challenges. And I think as people, you have to take those challenges and embrace them and do everything you can to help Notre Dame win. That was my role. That's what I understood, and that's what I accepted. Also in the back of my mind, I wanted to get back and coach, and I want to get my cleats on the grass and get with my guys again, and that's what brought me to Buffalo, was being an offensive line coach for 26 seasons, and then afforded me an opportunity to go there was because of my offensive line background. So yeah, there was always that eye war where that's what I wanted to do, and then the dear Lord blessed me. So yes, for 3 years I prayed for it, and it happened for me and my family, and it came true. So now we got to take full advantage of this opportunity.
Last year, when Chip Long was hired as the offensive coordinator, I guess maybe from the outside looking in, you look to be maybe the candidate to be the offensive coordinator because you work side by side very successfully with Coach Kelly. Was there a bit of disappointment when you did not get that offensive coordinator title last year?
Well, Coach Kelly and I had a conversation, and he was very open. With his thoughts and very genuine and very sincere. So I understood what he was asking from me and why he was looking at filling that role with Chip Long. Those are always difficult situations to be in, as we all know, but I took it as an opportunity to learn, to grow, to continue to watch an offense get installed, that hasn't been, exactly those terms and that schemes and those plays. We were similar, but I think Chip brought a lot more to the table with what we do now. And then also to be able to spend more time, watching Coach Hiestand and watching our defense with a new defensive coordinator. With change comes opportunity, and you have to embrace it, knowing that, potentially an opportunity would take place like it has now.
Coach, right here.
Yes, sir.
Excuse me. The players often talk about sort of the culture within the offensive line room here, and earlier Coach Kelly mentioned that whoever he hired for this position was going to need to fit that culture. You've been around for a little bit here and elsewhere, obviously. How do you just sort of describe, I guess, the mystique of that room at Notre Dame, and is it truly any different from any other places you've been here?
No, it's certainly different, and I think, a lot of it is attributed to the players. When you think about gentlemen like Quentin Nelson and Mike McGlinchey and Ronnie Stanley and Nick and Zach Martin and Chris Watt. Those are the gentlemen that when I first came here, I watched, and they made it clear this is who we are going to be. and these are the decisions we're going to make, and we're going to do it collectively amongst the offensive line. We're going to set the tone and the standard each and every single day. And you watch their work ethic and their mental and physical toughness. You just see it, and it becomes who you are. And I saw that unfold firsthand over the last 3 years. So to be in that room with those young men, I mean, it's impressive to see that all those traits are already in place. They display it each and every single moment that they can, and not just in football, but in their personal life, as students. So yes, that's a choice that those young men have made. These guys are going to continue that tradition with Sam Mustipher and Alex Barr and Robert Hainsey and Tommy Kramer and so on and so forth. They know the standard that they live up to, because those other guys are going to come back, and they're going to have something to say about it if it's not being done and done the right way. So I think they know the pride and traditions of that unit and what that room represents. But we have to display it every day when we go out there and play.
Jeff, to your right.
Yes, sir.
How important was it to you that you were able to add another recruit in Jarrett Patterson to kind of prove yourself and let people know that you can recruit at this level?
Well, I told Jarrett last night, I even told my wife, I said, I'm not going to sleep because he's out on the West Coast until I get that call. And so we had gone back and forth, and, certainly proud of Jarrett in making that decision. I felt all along, because I feel really good about my ability to read body language and look in a man's eyes or look in a person's eyes and see their soul, and I felt like there was a connection there. He just needed to know who I was and how I was going to, be able to train and develop him into the type of player he wants to become. Football's in their blood. He comes from a championship football program, and those things were very evident early on when I sat down and started to talk to him. I had my iPad in his living room and, talking about football, and he didn't want to talk about anything else at that point, which was great. And so for me personally, to have that ability to really demonstrate to him and show him and communicate to him who we are and what Notre Dame could do for him and what he can do for Notre Dame, that was a huge get for us. And so it was probably closer to midnight here. I think he was just getting rolling. It was 9 o'clock out there to get that phone call. But when he did, I was extremely excited, and he's be a welcome addition.
What do you like about him specifically as a player?
A great athlete, great size, length, moves well. I tell you, the one thing also that I felt was a really key for me is just when I saw his film, it caught my eye. There was a focus and there was a determination. He was intentional with his technique and his hands and his body positioning, how he was finishing guys. I mean, you could tell between his junior and his senior year, he made great strides in the weight room. He dedicated himself into the weight room. He was eating better. He was, he had that mindset. There was a purpose that he had in terms of what he wanted to demonstrate on the field, because he knew that was going to provide him some opportunities to be able to come to Notre Dame. And he was an Arizona State commit. And when that change happened, then it opened things up. And, Coach Pulling brought him to the offense. And, with my transition, it was one of the first people I wanted to get out there and meet and see more of. And it was a great find for us. And I think it'll be a great addition to our program.
And then with Luke Jones, how important was it to keep him in the class? And then also, what do you like about him as a player, too?
That was our first visit, So when I was announced on Tuesday, Wednesday, now Coach Kelly and I went down to Luke's home. That is a very high-achieving family. I mean, these are outstanding parents. I mean, have raised 3 outstanding children. And when I went in there, and I had met him when he came up on his official visit, but when I went in there and really had a chance to sit down and have a meal with him and his mom and dad and sister, and just started hearing the questions, which really hit my wheelhouse. I mean, they were asking the very things that, I felt good about. And that to me made all the difference in the world. And I was very eager to keep that commitment. And then I went back down there that final week, and I went back down there by myself. And I told Luke, I said, I'd have to tell the story because we're in Arkansas. And I said, my brother-in-law, my wife's brother, lived in Arkansas. And I said, I remember we were in a swimming hole. And I said, when we had our little children visiting down there, and there was 3 water moccasins swimming in the watering hole that we were swimming. I said, don't you guys have some snakes down here? He says, yeah, Coach, I got bit by a copperhead. I said, a copperhead snake? And he goes, yeah. I said, and you survived a snake bite? He goes, yeah, I was 13 years old. I said, you're one tough son of a gun. I said, I'm glad we're signing you to Notre Dame. And so a great story. I said, I'm just glad that, you know, we're not dealing with anything different than that. But great people and a great find, and comes from a championship program. Both of those young men come from championship programs.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.